Thank you, Werner. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been asked to restrict myself to maximum 10 minutes. I'll try to keep to that. But I will start with a small test. You will be tested because I will talk not about cultural diplomacy, but about branding. And our students at the Department for Northern European Studies at the Humboldt University made a little film for advertising our institute. And while I'm start talking, the first seconds of the film will be shown. Only some seconds, and I think the success and the dangers of branding will be shown here in that, or you will realize them. In any case, the Scandinavians will realize them and the people from the former GDR. My thesis is that nobody else will understand the point, the point at when I'm stopping that. So, it's in German, but you will understand. Ladies and gentlemen, it really hurts me, but I can't help. I have to provoke you. I have to tell you that there's something wrong with the general concept of branding. Behind the concept are brilliant ideas, as are shown here in the film, for marketing a product, a region, even a nation. These are hidden behind this concept. The strategies, conceptions, and overall observations regarding, we need the sound. Could you take it again with the sound? And that would be then the end of the film. So she's wondering what Scandinavia is, what Scandinavian studies are. And then she got it. So who's that? That is Egon from the Olsenbanden. But the background is IKEA, is Sweden. So this branding can only function with the Scandinavian audience, not with the German audience, or in any case with the GDR audience, because they liked the Olsenbanden films. So sorry to tell you that there is something wrong with the general concept of branding. The strategies, conceptions, and overall observations regarding special attributes of products, of people, and of nations are often, regularly convincing. They are bound to common sense, and they are frequently funny. The outstanding Finnish design, the excellent French kitchen, the cozy Danish society, the rationality of the Germans, the good weather of Italy, you name them. What makes me doubtful, I'm not a salesman, I'm not a politician, I'm not a business economist, I'm not an actor. What makes me doubtful as a scientist is the observation that branding is a concept and a guideline for well-being, well-selling, and optimistic people. The good things are branded, the noble characteristics. Branding in times of globalization is necessary for selling products, regions, and nations. Selling and tourism functions best with an appeal to cliches, which have positive connotations. Don't argue with bad humor or ugly weather. So, seen from a scientific observation point, branding implies frequently the exploitation and propagation of the exceptional, not of contradictions, not of diversity, not of bad cases and patterns, unless you argue with the bad products, weather conditions, and behavior of the others. The international film industry, not only Hollywood, has earned millions with the historical bad behavior of the Germans, from Luther, Frederick the Great, and Bismarck to Hitler. Having said this, from the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th, the perception among southern neighbors, as well as throughout the world, of the northern European countries as being politically, social, and cultural paradises are predominant. One can come to the conclusion that peace-loving, idyllic, democratic, social egalitarian Scandinavia, the phrase Scandinavian welfare model, became the modern utopian cliché, was an ingenious branding concept in today's marketing terms. After the bombing in Oslo and the massacre at Utøya, many commentators wondered if this idyll had come to an end. Responses to this varied by temperament and experience. And indeed, they turned out in many different ways. If nothing else, many Norwegians no longer recognized their country after that day, and a sympathetic world, and who wouldn't be sympathetic with Norway, wrestled with their own horror. Against the backdrop of this apostrophized paradigm shift, one must object that Norway in particular, and the North in general, has never been an idyll. The political dreamers and fools of the Völkischen ideology have so thoroughly duped us since the middle of the 19th century into believing that Scandinavia was a political and cultural paradise that, in the end, even the Scandinavians themselves believed it. That not only were they somehow better, but that evil only came from outside. This construction process was successfully, if not only sells, it was undoubted that, taking into account the smallness of the region and the low number of inhabitants, persons from Scandinavia are internationally overrepresented in the executive boards of political, economic, military, and societal organizations. After the Second World War, the heterotype became an auto-stereotype. Sweden turned itself into a moral great power, and Norway became the most peace-loving nation among peace lovers. Internally, all was good, as the evil was external. For Sweden, this meant the Russians. For the Danes, this meant primarily the Germans, but also the Swedes. And for Norway, this meant, again, Sweden. And for all of them, non-European foreigners. Nothing could destroy the image of a politically and culturally happy Northern Europe. The South has dreamed of an idyllic North from Tacitus to Wilhelm II, and told Scandinavians who believed it and made it their reality. This dream of a healthy, unalienated world was, as bitter as it sounds, over before Utøya. Norwegians and the world could finally see that they lived in a European normalcy, not just since July the 22nd, 2011. The Swedish Prime Minister was shot in public in the capital unprovoked. 17 years later, the Swedish Foreign Minister, Anna Lindh, was publicly murdered, although this time the killer was identified as a mentally disturbed person of immigrant background. I want to go into Finland's unsettling potential for violence, although one can read about this in the literature or in the social statistics, not to mention the Jokela rampage of 2007. The knife and the willingness to use it are common stock tales about Finnish society. Only dreamers could believe that these cases are exclusive to Sweden or Finland. The postmodern concept of branding for products, regions, nations, cities tells us that the necessary condition for the success of this concept, meaning its general acceptance, is the truth content and a clear connection to reality. Calling the Baltic Sea a sea of peace during the Cold War was clearly a lie, as the presence of military forces and the closure of the coastline were clearly visible to everyone. It was the exact opposite of a sea of peace, and the term has been contaminated ever since. My point, as I have implied, is a banal one. The Scandinavian countries, in general, are completely normal modern societies, where people murder, war, and drink. Every deviance, and I invite you to take a look at the releases of the Yellow Press daily. To deny this or claim that it is monocultural, a result of welfare bombs, alcohol, Protestantism, xenophobia, particularly to some region, or anything else is nonsense. The use of the so-called, in any case, postulated Scandinavian exceptionalism, seen in flat hierarchy, social justice and equality, peacekeeping engagement in international relations, is an excellent strategy for the branding of these nations. But seen with the eyes of a scientist, sometimes Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tale, The Emperor's New Clothes, comes into my mind. A colorful parade is shown in front of us, and I'm longing for the little child screaming that there is, in fact, there the emperor is naked. I admit, nearly naked. But be that as it may, I'm a scientist. I have nothing to sell. Thank you.